Remember Ness, one of Nintendo's most iconic heroes, armed with just his yo-yo and baseball bat, and of course, immense psi powers, saved his town of Eagle Land and the entire world from an alien takeover. However, before Ness, there's a different hero who also lived in Eagle Land, who also had psi powers, a baseball bat, a little red hat, who also helped save the world from being destroyed by aliens. Ninten. Ninten was essentially Ness before Ness, and sadly, only Japan got to experience his journey through the game Mother in the early 90s. When Mother Part 2 came out, which is where Ness would be the hero, the rest of the world got to experience this journey through the game called Earthbound, and fell in love with the offbeat humor, emotion, and adventure the game had to offer. Ninten was eclipsed. Later, there'd be a third game in the series, Mother Part 3, starring a new hero, Lucas, which was also a Japanese exclusive. However, there were so many fans of Part 2 that people made a fan translation just to play the game in their region. Mother Part 2 and 3 were iconic, so much so that Lucas and Ness lived on in the game Super Smash Bros., which is where most people became familiar with the Mother series to begin with. But while all this love and admiration for them was taking place, Ninten, the original hero, was left in the dark. Nintendo finally released an English version of Mother Part 1 on the Wii U Virtual Console. However, this was Nintendo's worst selling console, and the game was still lost to most people. However, hope was not over. In 2022, Nintendo finally released Mother Part 1 on the Switch for the NES Online. But it was at the same time as Part 2, where Ness was the hero that everyone knew and wanted to experience, and nearly everyone flocked to that game, leaving Part 1 regulated to only the most hardcore fans. But today is the day we're going to change all that, because Mother Part 1 is truly an awesome game. The overarching story of aliens taking over, with tons of little stories that all end up playing into the bigger picture. Characters with actual personalities rather than just different battle styles. A humongous map to explore of different towns, each with an individual atmosphere and conflict. The most eclectic enemies I've ever seen in an NES game, and of course, the music. This is perhaps the most slept on music of any NES game. And now you might just be saying to yourself, well, you're probably just a huge fan of the Mother series in general, and will love all the games of the franchise, even the NES one. Well, I might end up loving the whole series, but this is actually the first one I've ever played. I got Earthbound years ago in college and never got around to playing it. It was only recently that I sort of decided on a whim to give this series a try, and I wanted to start at the very beginning. And this game blew me away. So today, let's break down into a full review of Mother Part 1. And sorry for the length, I just really want to talk a lot about this game, and of course, there are spoilers. I try to give some warning as we go. The game starts out looking almost like a movie with the way it's doing its credits, and it sets the tone for what's going to be perfect music throughout. Just listen to this opening song. I absolutely love it. We are then introduced to the background story of the game about a married couple, George and Maria, who went missing, but only George ever returned. And this is not some weird murder tale to get law and order involved, but will later be revealed to be an alien abduction. Then 80 years pass and we pick up the story of Ninten, whose house is shaken by a great psychic force, but inanimate objects come to life to fight him, such as lamps and dolls. However, after defeating them, he's alerted by his father through a phone call that his grandfather used to study psi energy, and clearly this has something to do with what is going on. And his grandfather's name? George. So Ninten is the direct descendant of an abductee who studies psi powers. Ninten's dad tells him that this crazy stuff has happened all across America and he needs to go investigate it to stop it. It's his family's destiny of sorts. Now the journey starts off fairly small, with missions like finding a missing girl and returning her to her mother, or finding a missing bird and returning it to its mother, but eventually one of these small missions leads to a huge conclusion. While investigating why all the animals escaped from the local zoo, Ninten discovers that the aliens are behind all of this. Ninten is then warped to a fantasy land called Magicant, where the Queen is in a panic to remember 8 particular melodies. Seeing as the Queen teleported you there after discovering the aliens and having a weird yet great connection to her, Ninten decides this all plays into the mystery and that he needs to help out. This now becomes the core mission of the game, to find all 8 of these melodies to take back to the Queen to help figure out what's going on with these aliens. While searching for these melodies, you discover some more weird things going on, such as more disappearances, some zombies, some spaceships, some dragons, and super robots, all along your way. But more importantly, you find your team, Lloyd, Anna, and Teddy. Lloyd is found in a garbage can on top of his school, outcast due to his love of explosives. Anna is found in Snowman Town after all the parents in her town just disappeared. And finally Teddy, who also lost his parents, but this was due to possessed animals in the mountains after shadows of alien spaceships appeared. The abandonment story runs deep in each of these characters, and while that is initially what unites them, they grow closer and closer as the journey continues through their experiences, and they end up making the perfect team because each of these characters has unique abilities that they're able to bring to the table that only they can use. Lloyd is relegated to mainly explosive items, Anna has more psi abilities than even N10, and Teddy is the most powerful fighter of all with the sole ability to wield anything much heavier than a bat. Now, while the main characters are going to be your main focus in the game, the side characters are also quite a hoot as well. And I like how they actually bring them back around later in the game for more important plot points. Like the fella that we took plane rides from to earn tickets to get his tank, hours later he shows back up and rescues us in that same tank. Or how we later discover that our grandfather George's secret project mentioned in the opening scene was actually a robot that we discover that actually joins the team to help us out. And I don't want to say too much about the Queen's role just yet, but trust me, when I say everything from the story just weaves in and out throughout the game until it all comes together and makes perfect sense at the ending, it's amazing. But I love when characters make return appearances later in the game instead of just being a one-off. It makes the whole thing feel more cohesive and like a TV show or a movie instead of a game, and this game does it wonderfully. And the connectivity of the world of these characters is so intermingled as well. You have 8 different towns to explore, and each one is very distinctive from the others. Whether it's a town of zombies, or a winter town where everyone is sick, or a town where all the adults have disappeared, or a town run by a gang, it's just fun to see what is unique about the upcoming town that you're visiting. And like I said, the side plot of all these towns' problems also play into the greater overarching story. I don't know who the writer was for this game, but they did a top-notch job just bringing everything into place at the right time. Now all this is said so far and I haven't even mentioned the battling yet. The battling system is the classic turn-based battling that the NES and the SNES RPGs are known for. There isn't a huge gimmick or anything to the battles, but the extensive amount of abilities and powers that you can wield between your characters, it's really something. The attacks of the monsters are varied enough to keep you on your feet, from them calling for help to having death explosions to watch out for. The battles do keep you surprised. However, there is one battle in the game, the final battle against the core alien. It is totally different and I loved it. You just have to use one singular move called Sing over and over. However, while you're doing this, he gets to keep attacking you, so you're having to find ways to try to stay alive while you can still use the Sing move. It's a very different style of battle, and it's a lot of fun trying to figure out how to use your resources to the best of your abilities just to stay alive long enough to get this song out. Now, some people will say that the graphics of this game have not aged very well. However, that's just a matter of perspective because as someone who grew up with the NES games, I find the graphics to be pretty great and they take me back to my childhood. The individual animations for so many characters, for all the battles, and for all the different environments, it's fairly advanced for the time. Take the train moving sequence or the plane ride sequence. The fact that these animations exist in the game at all, on top of the normal gameplay, that's something pretty special. And even the towns and the people, while they may look simple, they did just enough for you to understand what the atmosphere of the town was like. The graphics to some degree remind me of the Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver games, which considering this was a decade before all of that, on the same amount of bit hardware, that's pretty impressive. And also, just fun little animations that they throw in there, like when you try to teleport, you can't quite do it, and you just slam into the wall. Look how they're like all electrified from the psychic power going wrong. Just little stuff like that in the animations, it really makes the game. Now let's get to the music. This has to be one of the best soundtracks on the NES. I've already showed the intro music, but take other classics like the field music. It's the perfect atmosphere for an adventure in the grasslands. But it doesn't stop there. The Queen's Castle highlights the sadness that encompasses the Queen's attitude from losing her memory of the 8 melodies which could possibly save the world. Then there's the theme of Snowman Town, where everyone is sick. They crafted the perfect melancholy winter song. I love winter game music, especially the Christmassy songs, but winter also brings hardships, and this is one of the few games that captures that aspect of winter. And like many NES games, the ending music is by far the best song in the game. It's like they try to give you extra reward in these old games. Now there are actually 3 different versions of the final song played depending on which part of the ending you are at, but it's the 8 melodies combined and it is beautiful. Now there are other classics like the school theme or the Magic Ant theme, and even some of the battle music is pretty fun, like Against the Hippie or the Cars, but you really just need to load the soundtrack up on YouTube even if you don't want to play the game because the songs are that great. I mentioned earlier that I decided to play the other games on a whim. Well, that whim was actually spurred on by finding this soundtrack online, and I really wanted to know the story behind some of the masterpieces that I was hearing. Now I mentioned a few things regarding the story, but I have to talk about the ending of this game a bit as well, because it's a great ending. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers on the very ending of the game, skip ahead to the time listed on the video below, but spoilers are coming in 3, 2, 1. Queen Mary is actually Ninten's grandmother and the wife of George. This really blew my mind when they introduced this into the story. When they were abducted, she was forced to raise the alien baby Gygas while George was sent back to the world. She would sing to Gygas the 8 Melodies song as a child, and they shared a very close mother and son bond. Because of Gygas' love for Ninten's family, Gygas even offered to spare Ninten's life before he got ready to destroy the world. However, once refused, he attacks Ninten and his crew anyway. Knowing that Gygas is too powerful to defeat, they try to bring him down by helping him find his humanity and kindness by singing the 8 Melodies song that Maria had taught him. He is devastated to hear it and tries to stop you, but it's only by hearing the whole song that he finally breaks down and he has to flee from the battle. And it's from here you get to actually rescue all the potted adults that were abducted, take Lloyd back to his school where he is heralded as a hero, reunite Anna with her mother, and profess your love that will never die. And you also get to see Teddy become the rock star that he always wishes that he could be. But I love how you get to see all the interactions and characters all lead to this single battle showdown. I just love how they literally took text from the intro, hid it throughout the entire world right before our eyes, the entire game, and we never know how it all comes together until the end. I'm telling you, when you see how all the interactions and the characters all lead to this single battle showdown, it's really something. Honestly, the writing in this game is closer to what TV shows were pumping out rather than what most video games were producing. I know that Gygas will be back, and that has to be what the second game is all about. However, in this game he's banished, and for the time, Ninten can go back to just being a weird little kid. It's a great story, and I cannot wait to see what the next game does with it. Now, as much as I love the game, there are a few things here that did not age quite as well. For example, the encounter rate. My lord, in some parts of this game where you're just simply trying to go from one point to another, you are constantly thrown into battles, and these battles do take a while because of the slowness of the NES text, or just simply the slowness of how the battle progresses, but the encounter rate is through the roof in this game, which also causes some difficulty spikes throughout the game. However, if you actually get to Repel Ring when you're in Magic Ant, it actually helps out a great deal on some of these encounter rates. But if you don't, get ready for a long path through some of these wildernesses. Also, some of the quality of life things that we're so used to are obviously not in this game. Like, you can't just go up and talk to somebody. You have to go up to them and select your menu and then talk to them. Or go up to something if you want to check on it, go to your menu and then check on it. It's a little bit cumbersome, but you do get used to it as the game goes, but some newer gamers will have a little bit more hard time with it. Also, just the way the menu functions in general, oftentimes you get to select one little thing, and of course you have to go all the way out of the menu, come back in and do it again. It just takes a little while to actually equip things or use your items or little things like that. There's also a little bit of backtracking in the game, and you do eventually get teleport. However, teleport comes so late in the game that you will rarely use it. You really need to have that move pretty early in the game, but the biggest issues really are that encounter rate, some of the grinding, and just some of the things that didn't age quite as well with the quality of life things we generally have in RPGs now. But this really doesn't detract from the game a whole lot, and overall, Mother 1 is an NES classic, and it's a shame that so many people never really gave it a chance at all. And I don't really know where I'll end up ranking this one compared to the 2 sequels when I get around to playing them. However, it really doesn't matter at all, because even if the other ones surpass it, this game is still excellent and it's top notch, and I can't recommend that you play it enough, especially if you're a fan of old NES games. So let Ness and Lucas sit in the background for a bit and let Ninten steal the spotlight and find out where the story really all began. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.